Number 10. He feels no pain. Leonardo DiCaprio is an incredible actor and has been known to keep his cool on set even when things go horribly wrong. In the film Django Unchained by pediatric enthusiast Quentin Tarantino, DiCaprio played a plantation owner named Calvin Candy. In one particular scene, Leo is so deep in character that he slams his hand down hard on a dining table in anger. Moments later, his hand is gushing blood as he had just come down right on top of a wine glass that was not supposed to break. Despite his hand being sliced open though, he not only stayed in character, but it was reported that he barely seemed to be in any pain during the ordeal. He just got stitches and he kept filming. As someone who's almost lost their finger before, your hand being ripped open does not feel good at all. It's extremely painful. The only logical explanation to this is Leo has used his millions to get some kind of a nerve blocker, allowing him to no longer feel pain. This would explain his ability to stay calm and in character in even the toughest of situations. It's either that or I'm just a wuss and don't handle pain well, I don't know, tomato potato. Number 9. He's poisoning the ozone layer. Leonardo DiCaprio has been open about his views on climate change for a long time, even taking time during his Oscar and Golden Globe speeches to drop some climate change knowledge on Hollywood and the world. It turns out that he may not understand the logistics of how jet fuel works. You see, Leo is a frequent flyer when he's traveling, but he's usually in his own private jet. Despite being a climate change activist, he flies across the planet in what looks like an expensive plane with a hefty fuel tank. On top of that, Leo drives a normal car and his massive house is powered on the same electricity as the rest of us. If he was really trying to save the planet, he'd make more radical changes. He's rich. Why hasn't he installed solar panels on his roof and gone off the grid? Well, because secretly he doesn't care. He's happy to drive and fly when he pleases. Come on, Leo, just aim a tank of fossil fuels at the sky and let her loose. Might as well. Number 8. He paid the Academy for his Oscar. In 2016, Leonardo DiCaprio finally won an Oscar for Best Actor in a leading role for his performance in the film The Revenant. He played a character named Hugh Glass, a frontierman on a fur trading expedition in the 1820s who fights for survival after being mauled by a bear and left for dead by his own hunting team. His performance was pretty good, but honestly there wasn't a ton of dialogue from DiCaprio, as he spends most of the movie alone in the woods. He grunts and screams in pain a lot though, and apparently that was good enough for Best Actor. When you compare Leo's performance to that of his fellow nominees from that year though, there's a very clear difference in quality. The other contenders that year were Eddie Redmayne in The Danish Girl, Matt Damon in The Martian, Bryan Cranston for Trumbo, and Michael Fassbender for Steve Jobs. These performances were arguably 10 times more compelling than Leo's, especially when you consider his past. Leo has been nominated for an Oscar 7 times throughout his career, with his first one coming in 1994 for his role alongside Johnny Depp in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. If you've never seen that movie, watch it and you'll realize that he got snubbed. He was nominated for his performance in Wolf of Wall Street, The Aviator, Blood Diamonds, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Any of those should have guaranteed him the win, but he lost time and time again. In 2016, it felt like the Academy was either forced or paid to give him the award, because not only was his reaction minimal following his name being announced, but he had a whole climate change speech like ready to go. I don't know, it's a little sus, just a little. Number 9, his preference in age. It's no secret that Leo's dating life has been filled with mainly younger women. In 2022, someone took the time to deep dive into Leo's past and created a literal chart of former lovers, as well as their ages compared to his own. According to the chart, between the ages of 24 and 44, Leo has been in 8 serious relationships, and all 8 women were significantly younger than him when they met. At 24, he met Giselle Bundchen, who was 6 years younger than him. His next girlfriend, Bar Rafley, named after the place her parents met, was 20 when she started dating Leo, who was 30. Between all 8 women, the oldest ones made it to 25 before Leo called it quits. Now there is no way that this is a coincidence. 3 women were dumped after they turned 25. It's like Leo had some kind of a sick need for the person he's with to be generations behind him. He's never come right out and talked about his preferences, but like, why would he? How would that conversation even go? Yeah, I keep a minimum of 20 years younger than me and the number grows by 1 every year. Yeah. Gross. Number 6, his mental health. Leo is one of those people who classifies themselves as a method actor. For instance, in a famous scene in Wolf of Wall Street, Leo's character took too many happy pills and has to drag himself across the floor in a haze of substance and spit. To prepare for this role, he interviewed several people with similar experiences, and he would rehearse his physicality over and over again before the scenes. Now, while that's not a great example, this one is. Anytime Leo has to play a character with some kind of an emotional detachment or mental health issue, he's been known to completely isolate himself from the world. For his role in Shutter Island, he played a detective sent to an asylum on a remote island to investigate the mysterious disappearance of one of the inmates. The film is wonderfully dark and full of mystery, right up to the final reveal, which I won't spoil just in case you want to watch Shutter Island. To prepare for this performance, Leo isolated himself in an apartment for 3 months and had it set up like a police precinct. He even hired a ghostwriter to give him fake crimes to solve so he could really step into the mentality of the role. While this may work for many people, the facts are that Leo has become more reserved over the years and he speaks with a very low volume and tone now. Did all that isolation make him go crazy for real? Probably. Number 5. King Charles's affair. The recently crowned King of England has not always played by the rules. In 1981, Prince Charles married Lady Diana, who was 20 years old at the time, leaving a 13-year age gap between them. Behind closed doors, it was speculated that Charles was never actually in love with Diana in the first place, and that was later proven to be true. While things seemed pleasant on the outside, behind the scenes, Charles was secretly meeting up and having an affair with his ex-girlfriend Camilla Bowles. The alleged relationship was written about in the 1992 Diana, Her True Story, but in 1994, Charles actually confirmed the allegations in a documentary, because that's the perfect place to do it. The couple filed for a divorce in 1996, and Diana died 1 year later. While the now king made it clear that he had no plans to remarry, he ended up getting remarried in 2005 to, oh hey look, it's Camilla Bowles, shocking. Number 4. Arnold's love child. Action movie star and former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger made headlines in 2011 with the revelation that an old rumor was in fact true. In 1996, Arnold was married to Maria Shriver, a member of the Kennedy family, and they were prepping to welcome their new son Christopher into the world. Arnie didn't prep by building them cribs or baby-proofing the outlets though. Instead, he decided to have an affair with his longtime housekeeper Mildred Baina. Around the same time Christopher was born, so was his illegitimate son, Joseph. Rumors began to rise after his wife noticed the strange and sudden absence of the housekeeper and wondered if there might have been a more sinister reason for her departure. It was later revealed in 2011 that Arnold decided to address those rumors and claim Joseph as his own. Turns out Arnold had given Mildred a large severance package back in the day so she could properly raise their son, leaving on what they call good terms. Well, eventually, after many years of trying and lots of paperwork, Maria and Arnold were divorced, and he's now able to spend more time as a papa. Number 3. Donald Trump's criminal activities. In 2006, Donald Trump was known solely as a wealthy real estate mogul with a hit reality TV show, The Apprentice. He had recently been married to one Melania Trump, and they had a newly born 4-month-old baby. However, reports leaked that Trump was in the midst of an affair with adult film star Stormy Daniels after she filed a civil suit claiming the contract he made her sign to keep quiet was invalid. Daniels claimed that herself and Trump had shared an intimate relationship for roughly a year during his marriage to Melania. These weren't the first allegations of an affair, as Trump has been back and forth in the media since the 1970s, being accused by like 26 women of misconduct. While these rumors never held any merit at first, the truth was finally set free. After being the most chaotic president in recent history, it was announced in March that Trump was going to be arrested on 34 separate violations of a New York law against falsifying business documents to conceal another crime. Over the years, he was essentially taking company money and using it to pay off anyone who may have been a threat to him, both personally or politically. Thanks for the free money, Donnie. Number 2. Paula Deen. Paula Deen is basically Martha Stewart just from the South. Paula opened her first restaurant in a Best Western lodge in Savannah and called it The Lady in 1991. She went on to own and operate several of her own restaurants, as well as hosting a very popular cooking show called Paula's Home Cookin'. Paula shared her recipes for delicious home-cooked meals and took the cooking world by storm, until 2013 when it was revealed that maybe Paula shouldn't be allowed to have a phone. Rumors had been circulating of a more sinister persona buried beneath the warm, sweet Southern lady we saw on TV, and it turned out those rumors were confirmed by Paula herself. Paula admitted to using racial slurs on her social media posts in the past. She would post these rants and aggressive comments, and then she would just immediately delete them to avoid being blasted in the media. Well, hey, the internet's forever, Paula, and Paula's cooking show got cancelled. It's all good though. She started another show on the very successful streaming device Roku. So popular, just so popular. Number 1. Michael Richards. Michael Richards played one of the most famous sitcom characters of all time on one of the most famous sitcoms of all time. He played Cosmo Kramer on the show Seinfeld for 9 years, and in that time made fans laugh and cry with his hilarious antics and wild lifestyle. Unfortunately, those laughs and cries turned to boos and anger. In 2006, Michael made an appearance at the Laugh Factory in California, where he went on a racially fueled tirade after responding to a heckler in the audience. Rumors of his bias had been circulating for a few years, as Richard wasn't a stranger to using choice words and phrases in his stand-up acts that were considered offensive and racist. Since the reveal of his true behavior, Richards has received an enormous amount of backlash and has given up comedy for good. He was also brought on as a guest on Jerry Seinfeld's popular show Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee and addressed the situation with Seinfeld. Richards seemed very apologetic, and he understood that what he said and did was wrong. But hey man, the words that he spoke that night still circulate the internet to this day, so sorry Michael. Number 10. Katy Perry collects hair. The singer was once asked during an interview a very simple and cute question of, "What's in your purse?" And fans perhaps hoped that she would respond with a bottle of Killer Queen or a cupcake crumb. But Katy Perry answered, "It's just a big empty bag." But she went on to describe what used to be in the purse. She claimed that while in attendance at her first Grammy Awards ceremony, she got to share a dressing room with Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift. Now with all that excitement, you'd think she'd ask for a picture or something, right? No, she asked them for a lock of each of their hairs, which Katy found, quote, "totally awesome." Well, her definition of the word awesome must be very different from ours, because this sounds just creepy as all heck. She then elaborated that she would tie little bows to each of them and put them in her purse. Now this sounds so made up, how could it be true? Well, Miley and Taylor actually backed up this story online, and Perry claims to this day that Miley Cyrus is both the most famous person in her purse and in her contacts. Oh, hey, Katie, I think you dropped something. Number 9. Ellen mistreats employees. In her first on-air appearance since announcing the end of her eponymous daytime talk show, Ellen DeGeneres called the press cycle around allegations of toxicity at her workplace orchestrated and misogynistic. The announcement that her show would be cancelled came after months of receiving negative press following a BuzzFeed article reporting former employees alleging that the environment was racially insensitive, filled with harassment and bullying. Ellen maintained in interviews that these allegations were not the reason that she would be leaving the show, simply claiming that the program was no longer challenging for her. While the BuzzFeed report did not allege toxic behavior by Ellen herself, several former staff members claimed that the whole "be kind" motto she had was not genuine at all, which was reflected in a Twitter thread published by comedian Kevin T. Porter. He asked people to send in their horror stories about the host's rudeness over the years, and he received over 2,000 replies. Warner Brothers opened an investigation and concluded that there were some flaws in the day-to-day management at the studio. Following this, Ellen appeared on the 18th season premiere of her show in 2020 and made an on-air apology to viewers, claiming responsibility, later stating that there was no way she could know the true nature of the work environment due to the 255 employees that worked for her across multiple buildings. Hey, ever heard of like a complaint box? Number 8. Prince Charles's affair. He's now the King of England, but he's not always played by the rules. You see, in 1981, Prince Charles, at the time, married Lady Diana, who was 20 years old at the time, leaving a 13-year age gap between them. Behind closed doors, it was speculated that Charles was never in love with Diana in the first place, and it was later proven to be true. While on the outside things seemed pleasant, behind the scenes Charles was secretly meeting up and having an affair with his ex-girlfriend Camilla Bowles. The alleged relationship was written about in the 1992 Diana Her True Story book, but in 1994 Charles confirmed the allegations in a documentary, because that's a great place to do that. The couple filed for a divorce in 1996, and Diana died 1 year later. While the now king made it clear that he had no plans to remarry, he ended up getting remarried in 2005 to, oh hey, look, it's Camilla Bowles. Shocking. Number 7. Jonathan Majors charges. Jonathan Majors may be familiar to those of you who are fans of the MCU as Kang the Conqueror, the newest big bad addition to the never-ending roster of villains in Marvel's Rogue Gallery. Unfortunately, it looks like he may end up getting the CGI eraser treatment due to an incident in March of this year. Majors was arrested on misdemeanor charges of and following a domestic dispute with his girlfriend. These charges, however, would only be the first domino to fall, as rumors began circulating about similar instances in the past, with many people in both the Yale community, where he went to school, and the New York theater scene, where he studied and practiced performing, claiming Majors was well known for being emotionally violent and professionally abusive, but never physically violent. While Majors is currently in a battle to prove his innocence, claiming the situation to have been blown out of proportions, a series of texts uncovered by his lawyer seemingly proved that there was some merit to the incident. They showed Majors' girlfriend had passed out during the incident and as such had to be hospitalized, where she was reported to have several bruises and scratch marks throughout her entire body. This meant that the charges would stick, and Majors is definitely on his way to the bottomless pit of cancelled celebrities. Number 6. Caitlyn Jenner's transition. Now, this one isn't disturbing because of Caitlyn, it's because of how many people felt that her business needed to be a part of their lives. Let people live, you jerks. Rumors had been circulating of Caitlyn's transition since the early 1970s. The former Olympian had publicly denied these rumors for years, with many family members and friends even backing her story up time and time again. But in 2015, the rumors had begun surfacing again due to Jenner being spotted leaving a doctor's office by a tabloid journalist, supposedly after just receiving estrogen treatments. Jenner had also recently undergone reconstructive surgery, which seemed to only add more fuel to the fire. The photo taken and the speculation began to go viral, despite Jenner not being fully out at the time. But a few months later, following these events, she came out as transgender on a highly publicized interview for Diane Sawyer. In the interview, Jenner expressed the gender identity struggles that she has faced through her entire life, having to hide her true self in order to maintain some macho, sporty persona, and for fear of not being accepted. Even revealing that her first wife, Christy Scott, was the first to really understand her struggles, and despite being divorced in 1998, she's publicly expressed her well wishes towards Caitlyn and how proud she is for being herself. You go, girl. Number 5. Cardi B versus Aja Davies. In 2017, rapper Cardi B and model Aja Davies appeared on an episode of VH1's Love and Hip Hop talk show. Things became heated very quickly when the topic of Aja's ex-boyfriend Swift came up. According to Davies, she was convinced that Cardi and Swift were intimate together while she was still dating Swift. Cardi responded to the accusations by throwing her stiletto at Aja's face. She then jumped up and began making her way towards the model, but was stopped by 2 large security guards. Good thing too, considering on the other side of the room, Aja had done the same thing and was also being held back. An all-out brawl almost took place, but the altercation resorted to the pair just yelling at each other from across the room, with Cardi's main grievance being the judgment being placed upon her by Davies for being an exotic dancer before her time as a musical artist. While Davies claimed that wasn't the case, it was very clear from both their verbal and physical language that there was certainly some shade looming overhead. Number 4. Sharon Osbourne versus Cheryl Underwood. 2 years ago on the popular talk show The Talk, host Cheryl Underwood and Sharon Osbourne began to discuss the topic of racism amongst the recent firing of Sharon's personal friend Piers Morgan from Good Morning Britain over a series of comments he had made towards the former Duchess of Sussex. Sharon went off and began aggressively defending her friend, asking Cheryl what Piers had said specifically that was racist. She then went on to say that she was being put in an electric chair, and due to her connection to Piers, that she herself was also going to be blasted as a racist. She went on to clarify that she did not support his comments per se, but she did support his right to free speech. But like, he used free speech to say messed up things, so like maybe don't support him publicly. She then asked Cheryl over and over again how she herself could be racist. What has she done or said? And then Cheryl signed off for a commercial break, before Sharon let out some choice expletives. When they returned, the tension almost seemed worse and the conversation continued to escalate. Eventually, Underwood was able to get her point across and calm down Sharon. The talk crew chalked the argument up to being a learning experience and a conversation that needed to be had. Number 3. Nicki Minaj versus Miley Cyrus. The MTV, the channel that just continues to deliver us such juicy reality moments. MTV was, however, responsible for the inception of one of the greatest award shows of all time, previously mentioned on this list. That's right, the Music Video Awards. This ceremony celebrates the best and brightest of the music industry, but in 2015 things got extra juicy. Miley Cyrus, remembered fondly as Hannah Montana, and remembered for riding a wrecking ball, was hosting the event that year, when rapper Nicki Minaj had just taken the stage. After winning the Best Hip Hop Video Award, she quickly shifted the audience's attention though from herself to the host. Minaj was calling Miley out for supposedly talking trash about her in a recent interview. She asked Miley, "What's good?" and Miley responded. She kept her cool and explained that everyone in the industry knows how news outlets and interviewers can manipulate footage to make comments sound worse than they actually are. She then reminded the audience about her difficult-to-watch performance at the ceremony in 2008 and threw an 80-foot picture up on the wall behind her just to emphasize the point. Minaj's mic was cut off and Miley introduced the list of artists being nominated for Best Future Artists before leaving the stage. But this wouldn't be the first time Nicki got into it with another celebrity. Number 2, Dakota Johnson versus Ellen DeGeneres. When Dakota Johnson was a guest on the Ellen DeGeneres show in 2019, she took a more subtle and pulled back approach to addressing an issue with the host. Ellen asked Johnson when her birthday was, and then claimed that she had actually never received an invitation for the party. The 50 Shades star quickly smiled and revealed that she actually had in fact extended the invitation, but Ellen never replied. Ellen was baffled, asking Dakota, "Oh, are you sure? There's no possible way that that could happen." To which Dakota replied, "Ask literally anyone here, specifically your producer Jonathan." Following the comment, Ellen is seen searching the room for Jonathan or maybe just anyone that she can yell at because she has a very angry expression on her face, which is understandable. She just got outed as a liar on her own TV show. Unfortunately for Ellen, that wouldn't be the last time, as only a few months later a series of news stories and rumors began to circulate about Ellen's mistreating of studio staff, eventually leading to the show's cancellation last year. Looks like Dakota delivered her 50 Shades of, "Oops, sorry, you're cancelled." Number 1, Cardi B versus Nicki Minaj. It's all led to this, a matchup for the ages. A few years ago at a Fashion Week event in New York City, Cardi B and Nicki Minaj appeared at separate times being photographed in stunning gowns on the streets of NYC. However, when the two crossed paths inside the buildings, things escalated quickly. According to witnesses, Nicki purposely stepped on Cardi's dress before spouting some nasty words about Cardi's daughter. First rule of trashing someone who is a parent? Leave the kids out of it. Cardi blew up. She stumbled as she tried to run across the room, once again being held back by bodyguards, but this time she got through. After a moment of calm, Cardi lunges at Nicki but is quickly blocked by her own security team, who must have made contact with Cardi because photos taken of her leaving the event show a nasty bump forming on her forehead. That wasn't the end though, as Cardi then began to remove her shoe and flung it at Nicki from across the room. I swear, she's like a Hawkeye with a shoe or something. Nicki and her team kept the shoe as Exhibit A should they ever need to open a lawsuit for the incident. No charges were ever brought to light, but the two have been in a public feud ever since. Number 10. Amber Heard. According to the internet, Amber Heard is not only an actress, but she's also a humanitarian and a social activist. Okay, sure. She got her big film break starring in the horror movie All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, but I was genuinely shocked when I saw what movies she's also been in. Did you guys know that she was 406 in the movie Zombieland? And she was Seth Rogen's love interest in Pineapple Express. Oh, and she's the reason that Aquaman 2 is gonna be delayed. Since 2016, Amber Heard and her ex-husband Johnny Depp have been throwing accusations at each other left and right. They were accusing each other of domestic altercations that may or may not have taken place during their brief one-year marriage. Those accusations were confirmed during their very public trial in which Depp was suing Amber for defamation over a 2018 op-ed for the Washington Post. While the trial brought to light some disturbing truths on both sides, the biggest shock came when after several days of interviews, witness statements, and mountains of paperwork, a jury found that Amber's statements were in fact false and granted Depp the defamation. Amber had filed a countersuit, which she also kinda technically won, but it was way less than what Johnny got. Sound files, video footage, and witnesses gave concrete evidence that Amber was the instigator in many of their disputes, and that she was subsequently fired from any and all future projects. Number 9. Ellen DeGeneres. In her first on-air appearance since announcing the end of her eponymous daytime talk show, Ellen DeGeneres called the press cycle around allegations of toxicity at her workplace orchestrated and misogynistic. The announcement that her show would be cancelled came after months of receiving negative press following a BuzzFeed article reporting former employees alleging the environment was racially insensitive, filled with harassment, and, hey, bullying too. Ellen maintained in interviews that these allegations were not the reason that she would be leaving the show, simply claiming that the program was no longer challenging for her. While the BuzzFeed report did not allege toxic behavior by Ellen herself, several former staff members claimed the whole "Be Kind" motto was not genuine at all, which was reflected in a Twitter thread published by comedian Kevin T. Porter. He asked people to send in their horror stories about about the host's rudeness over the years and received over 2,000 replies. Warner Brothers opened an investigation and included that there were some flaws in the day-to-day management of the studio. Following this, Ellen appeared on the 18th season premiere of her show in 2020 and made an on-air apology to viewers, claiming responsibility, later stating that there was no way that she could know the true nature of the work environment due to the 255 employees that worked for her across multiple buildings. Ever heard of a complaint box? Number 8. Katy Perry collects hair. The singer was once asked during an interview a very simple and cute question of, hey, what's in your purse? And fans perhaps hoped that she would respond with like a bottle of Killer Queen, which was her, cologne, or cupcake crumbs, but Katy Perry answered with, oh, it's just a big empty bag, and then went on to describe what used to be in it. You see, she claimed that while in attendance at her first Grammy Awards ceremony that she got to share a dressing room with Miley Cyrus and Taylor Swift. Now, with all that excitement, you'd think she'd ask for a picture, right? Yeah, no, she asked them for a lock of each of their hair, which Katy found, quote, like totally awesome, but hey, that's weird because She then elaborated that she would tie little bows to each of them and like put them in her purse. This sounds so made up, like how could that be true? No, Miley and Taylor actually backed that story up online, and Perry claims to this day that Miley Cyrus is the most famous person in her purse and in her contact books. Nice. Number 7. Josie Smollett. In 2019, American actor Josie Smollett, best known for his role in the Mighty Ducks movies and his time as Jamal Leon on the show Empire, approached the Chicago Police Department to report a hate crime. According to himself, 2 unknown individuals appeared from the shadows and began harassing Josie. They flung racial and homophobic slurs at Smollett, while one attacker poured a flammable substance on him, and the other began to insert his head into some rope. News of this altercation made headlines in the following days, as it was announced that an investigation would be made to help piece together what exactly happened. Well, too bad for Josie, the Chicago PD are pretty good at their jobs. They quickly found that the 2 strangers in question were 2 Nigerian brothers named Abimbola and Olambinjo, who had worked as extras on the set of Empire. They raided the brothers' home and found documents confirming the pair had been paid $3,500 each to stage the event. They had video footage of the brothers purchasing the masks, gloves, and hats that are seen in the altercation footage. They also found receipts for the liquid and rope used during the attack. Hey, not a great time to keep track of your finances, guys. In 2019, Smollett was charged with a Class 4 felony for filing a false police report, and on top of that, the Chicago PD was suing him for $130,000 for wasting their time and resources on a fake incident. In the end, he spent 150 days in jail and coughed up a lot of the cash. Number 6. Kylie Cosmetics. Kylie Jenner is the youngest of the Kardashian clan and is extremely successful for her age. In 2019, she made the cover of Forbes magazine as the youngest self-made billionaire ever, following the successful partnership between her cosmetic brand and Ulta, a beauty salon company, which would allow the brand previously only available online and in random pop-up stores to be placed on shelves and in Ulta's 1,000 plus stores. This is unfortunate considering the true nature of just where these products come from. You see, rumors of Kylie's mistreatment for her employees were circulating for weeks after several claims from former employees were made public. It turns out every single thing that they said was true. Many people at the factory that mixed and packaged her makeup and beauty products would report that they were never actually given proper safety equipment that you would require to do that job. They were only given hairnets, lab coats, and safety goggles, leaving their hands and faces completely exposed. Workers would regularly report migraines and chemical burns varying in severity. Now, if this isn't bad enough, they were also forced to act as human test subjects for Kylie's new products. This woman was on the cover of Forbes magazine. She was so proud of her company for not testing products on animals, but like, can we agree that using people is like a billion times worse? Number 5. Michelle Rodriguez. While many fans know Rodriguez as the action star from the Fast and Furious franchise, and most recently from the new Dungeons & Dragons movie, she is best known by law enforcement for her many drinking and driving related crimes. These included a number of charges from driving under the influence to attempted swatting while under the influence. These sentences carried out a small jail sentence of only a few days each. In one instance, Rodriguez only served 4 hours of a 4-day prison sentence due to overcrowding, and only served 2 days of a 60-day sentence for the exact same reason. While she may have been let out early, the charges did come with a significant amount of community service, and of course, as many of us know, when you are convicted of a crime, no matter how small, there tends to be a probationary period attached to it, meaning there is a certain amount of time where you're prohibited from violating specific rules and especially committing any crimes. Now, unfortunately for Rodriguez, a hit-and-run incident in Los Angeles placed her in violation of said parole, and a warrant was issued for her arrest. The actress was nowhere to be seen following the incident, as multiple attempts to contact her by police went nowhere. It turns out she had been hiding from them because she knew exactly what was going to happen. This time, there would be no overcrowding loopholes, and she was eventually arrested and made to serve the entirety of a 6-month jail stint for violating her probation. Number 4. Mel Gibson. In 2006, the Braveheart star was pulled over by Los Angeles police who suspected Gibson was not in his right mind to be behind the wheel of a car. While Mel has had many run-ins with the law over the years for numerous reasons, it was his issues with the happy juice that got him on this list. As the officers pulled Mel over, they calmly went through the procedures of administering a roadside sobriety test, which Mel of course failed. When he was politely asked by the officers to enter the squad car, not even putting him in handcuffs, he responded by literally running from the law. Like, he sprinted away. He just got right out of there. Meep, meep. According to the police reports, he made a mad dash towards his vehicle, but before the officers could even start an on-foot pursuit, the go-go juice had already done its job, and Mel's legs had fallen asleep, causing him to fall face first into the pavement. Way to make an impact, Mel. Get it? Because his face impacted with the and moving on! Number 3. Ja Rule. Ja Rule is a famous rapper, producer, and actor with multiple platinum records under his belt. He is also well known among the rich and powerful as a silly man who invests in silly things. In 2018, Ja Rule began promoting a music festival called Fire. The festival was said to be a private concert on a luxurious beach in the Bahamas. People were paying him and the co-founder of the event, Billy McFarland, millions of dollars to rent private yachts and mega mansions that just simply didn't exist. After the festival went forward as scheduled, many people were shocked to find that their homes were actually leftover hurricane shelters from the island, and that their 5-star meals would be of a worse quality than most middle school cafeterias. Not to mention, almost every event, perk, or promise from that festival was cancelled, including the festival itself. Thousands of disgruntled concert goers formed a civil suit against Ja Rule and Billy and had enough evidence and cause to win that battle with basically no effort. This may be why Ja Rule bailed. He fled the island the moment things started to go wrong on site and was elusive in the public eye for several weeks. Eventually, Rule was contacted by law enforcement and made aware of the charges being brought against him. Luckily for Ja Rule though, he was only a part of the civil suit, while his partner Billy McFarland was sentenced to 6 years in jail after the FBI found evidence of multiple counts of wire fraud. Got out of that one pretty good, eh, Ja? Number 2. O.J. Simpson. Today we will be discussing O.J. Simpson, but no, it's not for what you might be thinking. While O.J. had a major run-in with the law in the late 90s, he was later acquitted of those charges being brought against him. However, one night in 2007, O.J. gathered up a crew of goons and made his way to the Palace Station Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. A sports memorabilia dealer named Bruce Fromming testified that the men entered his hotel room and stole memorabilia while threatening his life. The altercation lasted for 6 minutes, but the event was described to have been fast and loud as the crew were strictly there to keep Bruce quiet while the others took the goods. For 3 days following the event, the police were on the search for OJ, as not only was the memorabilia they stole specifically his, but he wasn't wearing a mask or anything at the time of the robbery. He just walked in face first. So, needless to say, Bruce was very quick to point the finger. OJ was eventually located and charged with robbery and aggravated pushiness and was sentenced to 35 years in prison. Bye, buddy. And number 1, Jake Lloyd. Jake was the little boy that became a Sith Lord, playing young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1. While his character eventually becomes Darth Vader, Lloyd's personal life would turn out to be just as rough. Following the release of the film, Jake was actually picked on relentlessly by both his peers and Star Wars fans. He grew up with people hating him in public settings and cursing his name whenever Episode 1 was even mentioned. Seriously, people, we're hating on this kid like he's Angela Merkel. Chill. This was surely an attributing factor to his growth as a person, as over the years he had become more and more violent in the public eye and was very well known for being short-tempered. In 2015, police chased the 26-year-old Lloyd for 25 miles before he crashed off the side of a road into Interstate 95 in South Carolina. He was not intoxicated at the time, but after being arrested and sent for a psychiatric evaluation, it was concluded that the young actor had been suffering from schizophrenia and was being held for treatment. Number 10. Seth Rogen and James Franco. Our first first spot on this is going to be a double down, as the situation surrounding their run from the law was a shared experience. In 2014, Seth Rogen and James Franco starred in a film called The Interview, in which they play a talk show producer and host respectively, and are granted the opportunity to interview the Supreme Leader of North Korea. Spoiler alert, at the end of that movie, the Supreme Leader is blown up in a helicopter, and the heroes liberate the country. Needless to say, that did not sit well for Kimmy. When news of the film and its content began circulating a few months before its scheduled worldwide theater release, the Korean government hacked Sony servers to watch the film and gain the private information of its employees. This led to Seth Rogen and James Franco being personally threatened by Korean law enforcement that they were being viewed as enemies to the country and were therefore a threat. This caused Rogen and Franco to go into hiding, even having Sony Studios hire 24/7 security guards at their private homes. The government continued to threaten the two until they had the movie edited down to the Supreme Leader's approvals. And after a couple of months of hiding, Rogen joked in his book Yearbook that one morning everybody woke up and the guards were just gone. Nobody said goodbye, there was no good luck, no nothing. It was decided that the film would make more money and be more accessible if it was premiered online, making it one of the very first full-length feature films to ever premiere on the Google Play Store. Number 9. Bam Margera. Wham! Bam! Thank you, ma'am! Bam Margera is best known for bringing his body to the brink of destruction on numerous occasions. I'd run down the titles of things that he's been in, but I can't really say most of those because they're a little too raunchy for YouTube, so just Google his name and have some fun. Unfortunately, Bam has also been one of the many Hollywood bad boys that have fallen into serious addiction and substance control issues. Since the mid-2000s, Bam has been in and out of prisons and rehabs, always being able to clean up his act momentarily, but unfortunately falling right back into his old habits. This is too bad, considering just last year on fellow stuntman Steve-O's podcast, Bam reported that he was doing really well and actually had just finished a full year in rehabilitation, but it seems like he may have returned to his rambunctious ways. Last week it was reported that there was a warrant out for Bam's arrest following an altercation with his brother, which included Bam spouting some very threatening threats to his entire family. A manhunt was issued for the stuntman, as his many run-ins with the law had listed him as dangerous and aggressive. After 3 days, the hunt was called off, Bam came to his senses and decided to turn himself in. So far, there is no news on the outcome for Bam, but we can say for certain it's probably not going to be good. Number 8. Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller has been on the acting scene since 2008, first appearing in films such as After School and Perks of Being a Wallflower. They seemed like a normal functioning member of society for quite some time until 2019, when cast and crew started noticing odd behavior from the actor. They would often wear capes or robes to set that were never a part of the wardrobe. They were also reported to have a lot of scattered thoughts and motivations, both on and off screen. And in 2020, a video surfaced of Miller in a violent altercation outside of a bar in Iceland, which would only be the first of many videos showcasing the actor's misdeeds, eventually leading to Miller breaking and entering into someone's house in Hawaii of all places. I guess they were just a little bit chilly and couldn't find a blanket. Miller then went on the run from Hawaiian authorities for a little over a week, supposedly squatting in abandoned buildings and sleeping on benches. They were eventually caught and charged with breaking and entering as well as aggravated swatting, as Miller had apparently gotten into a fist fight before breaking into the house. I don't know, 2 birds, 1 stone, right? Number 7. Shakira. While her hips may not lie, apparently she does. Famous pop singer Shakira made headlines in 2018 when Spanish prosecutors announced that Shakira had failed to pay $14.5 million in European taxes between 2012 and 2004. Shakira has claimed that her primary residence at the time was in the Bahamas, but the authorities say that she was living in Barcelona during this period in a house that she had purchased in May of 2012. Shakira was adamant that this never took place and the Spanish government were simply trying to ruin her name. She dodged the Spanish government for years until she was forced to pay the full tax debt, plus $3 million in interest. But the law did not stop there, as they apparently continued to berate her to this day, claiming that there's still money being owed on her account. In fact, Shakira finally had enough and decided to stop avoiding the law and face them head on, and has started a lawsuit which she is said to be very confident to win. Number 6. Mark Wahlberg. That's right, Marky Mark from Defiant Funky Bunch is on this list. He once ran from the law for something that happened in his youth in 1999. From a young age, Mark actually suffered from substance control issues, which many link to his parents' divorce when he had just become a teenager. He took a lot of his anger out on those around him while under the influence, with one instance even leaving him on the run and hiding from authorities for over a month. One night on his way home, Wahlberg ran into and began an altercation with two Vietnamese men using a large stick as a weapon. This escalated to the point where one man was left blind in one eye and Mark was charged with attempted extermination. This charge was very serious, and knowing what could come of it caused Wahlberg to pack his bags and bolt. He was staying with friends for a month until he was eventually found and arrested. He pleaded guilty to aggravated thwacking and was sentenced to 2 years of prison, which he only served 45 days of. He's since become a Hollywood giant, starring in blockbusters like the Transformer franchise, and has been able to steer clear of that law ever since. A celebrity's birthday party. It's some of Hollywood's most exclusive events. You really gotta know someone to get invited to celebrate their birth. At Leo DiCaprio's 48th birthday, a number of A-list celebrities were in attendance. LeBron James was there, Rami Malek, Scott Eastwood, Mario Lopez, people who seemingly have nothing to do with Leo. Except one thing. You see, there's a dark corner of the internet that's dedicated to the idea that Hollywood elites are actually in a cult and make sacrifices to keep themselves rich and young. Leo is definitely on the list of possible members, not only due to his activity in the climate change community, literally trying to alter the air, but his never-aging face. Many older actors in Hollywood have young faces. Just look at Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd hasn't aged since 1991, which must have been when he was inducted as the leader. There is some evidence supporting this theory. Leo only dates younger people, and famously, younger people are popular for sacrifices in film. His so-called friends are all frozen in time, and let's face it, some of these people sold something to someone to magically gain their fame. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Casey Affleck. Number 4. Bad friends. The Leonardo DiCaprio Foundation auctioned off dates with two of Hollywood's biggest predators at their annual fundraising auction in 2015. YouTube won't allow us to say these people's names anymore or show their faces, because that's just how terrible these people were. So to help put a face to the situation, they were two of the men that were brought down by the Me Too movement. They were like the first ones, and one was a producer for Quentin Tarantino, the other one was the lead of House of Cards. So for the purposes of this list, we will refer to them as Jabba the Hutt and Spaceman. Should be pretty easy to differentiate the two. The foundation auctioned off a chance to spend a year working and enjoying private time with Jabba and Spaceman. In hindsight, this is one of the weirdest things a person could bid on. It doesn't matter who the people are, you're basically just paying to have famous friends for a year. Leo brought these men back for this event several times. Now, while it was before the allegations of their misdeeds were confirmed to the public, Leo was very close to these men for a long time. He worked with Jabba on several big budget projects, and he's been close with Spaceman and his family since his early 20s. Gee, I wonder why Spaceman wanted him around. With these being some of the people he's associated with, we can only imagine the other people that he might keep secret in his life. He's a man of wealth, influence, and power. The idea that his friend list and the Me Too list are one and the same, it's definitely in the realm of possibility. Number 3. He inspired Home Alone. Leonardo was born on November 11th in 1974 in Los Angeles. He was an only child growing up, and his parents, Irma Lynn and George DiCaprio, have been pretty vocal about his rowdy behavior growing up. From a young age, it was obvious that he was going to do something creative. They recall him constantly running around the house, impersonating people, and doing little sketches for them from time to time. One thing they pointed out though was that Leo had a tendency to pull stunts on his parents with elaborate traps and contraptions. His antics were first mentioned in the early 90s while doing an interview with his parents. Coincidentally, a little holiday movie called Home Alone was made not long after that. It's a film starring a kid using elaborate traps, contraptions, and voices to take out the bad guys trying to invade his house. And to trick a pizza guy for some reason. I don't know, that scene always seemed cruel to me. Is this a coincidence? I don't think so. It wouldn't come as any kind of a surprise that some Hollywood hotshot heard this story and molded it into the classic flick that we know now. His parents called them antics. But if Leo did anything even close to Kevin McAllister in that movie, he has definitely ended some lives. Number 2. Don's Plum. No, this entry is not about a man named Don and his obsession with plums. That's gonna be another list. Today we're talking about Leonardo's greatest regret. In 2001, he released a movie titled Don's Plum, starring himself, Tobey Maguire, and several more of his younger male friends. The film has been banned from ever being shown in theaters in the US and Canada. Why? Well, this this was basically Misogyny the movie. The plot centered around the crew meeting up once a week to discuss their recent romantic escapades and overall life experience. Oh, they also bring a new girl every week and just treat them like absolute garbage. This film is filled with terrible dialogue, graphic depictions of violence against women, with Leo's character even going so far as to threaten a woman with a glass bottle. That particular scene is very intense, but what's more intense is that the dialogue in the scene was improvised by DiCaprio on set, meaning that behind his calm, quiet demeanor, there may be a truly horrifying man. No normal person would have said the things that he said in that moment, so seriously, check him out. And number 1, he's immature. In 2013, Leonardo DiCaprio played a character named Jay Gatsby in the movie adaptation of F. Scott Fitzgerald's 1925 novel, The Great Gatsby. The plot centers around the titular character who has been throwing extravagantly lavish parties at his home without anybody knowing who he actually is. People just show up to the party and never wonder where or who their host is. It would appear that this role was meant for Leo, as he's been known to throw a mega bash or two in his time. The problem though is DiCaprio's real-life persona is much more immature than his on-screen counterpart. According to past partygoers, Leo has been known to go hard. While he's never taken any illicit substances, he really likes that no-no juice mixed with a little bit of OJ. His behavior has been erratic, and he's apparently very easily excitable. This is unfortunate to hear, as Leo is normally very well spoken, and with being an active member in the climate change community, you'd think he'd have like the mentality of a 70-year-old Harvard grad, but instead he's apparently more of a Kyle, mentally speaking. If you know, you know. Number 10. Will Smith versus Chris Rock. Let's get this one out of the way, shall we? In 2022, Chris Rock was hosting the 94th annual Oscar ceremony when he decided to make a little joke about Jada Pinkett Smith and her hair loss. Rock expressed his excitement to see Jada in a fictional G.I. Jane movie, which immediately following the joke, which landed for everybody else in the audience by the way, Rock stood in confusion as Will made his way towards the stage. Will adjusted his jacket, he took a firm, strong stance, and then he just clocked Chris in the face. He winded up his hand first to conjure up ultimate force, initially being seen as a planned joke between the two. Will then began shouting several times at Rock from his chair to keep his wife's name out of his flippin' mouth. Chris handled the situation well, he kept his cool, laughed it off for the cameras, and brought out the next award presenters. He was professional and quick to get the night back on track, but unfortunately an hour later, Will Smith won the Oscar for Best Actor in a Leading Role. He played Richard Williams, the father of tennis superstars Venus and Serena Williams. During his speech, he gave a half-hearted apology for his actions before claiming that the situation was due to his months of portraying the father figure on set, leaving him with an extreme paternal sense to protect his family. Unfortunately for Will, the slap was enough to get him banned from the Oscars indefinitely. Number 9. Chanel West Coast versus Charlemagne the God. Welcome to Ridiculousness with your host Rob Deerdeck and his couch companions Chanel West Coast and Stilo Brim. Ridiculousness is a clip show. If you have MTV, there is a very good chance, like 99% chance, that it is on right now. One of its giggly hosts is Chanel West Coast, a prominent figure in Deerdeck's life since appearing in his very first MTV show, Fantasy Factory. But Chanel broke into the performing world as a rapper in 2014. Following Fantasy Factory, she became a regular host on Ridiculousness, and on one episode of the show, fellow rapper Charlemagne the God was brought on as the celebrity guest commentator. During a conversation with Deerdeck, the God said, "My only strategy is to just tell the truth. Just like whatever I said about you, I'm gonna say about you." To which Chanel replied, "Just because you say something doesn't make it truth." The God continued saying that it's just his opinion, and he then called out West for being upset simply because the rapper once called her whack. Well, Chanel went off, dropping names like they were bird seeds at a park. She reminded Charlemagne that she was co-signed to a label by rap legend Lil Wayne, who also co-signed Drake and Nicki Minaj. She's got songs with Snoop Dogg, French Montana, YG, so T.Y., Dollar Sign, so don't you dare call this woman whack. Ty the God was left speechless by the outburst. I guess his mouth was just full from all that name drop smoothie Chanel served him. Number 8. Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman. Jerry the King Lawler was a professional wrestler between the 1970s and the late 80s. Andy Kaufman was a comedian and regular star of the legendary sitcom Taxi. Yet somehow their paths seemed destined to cross. On one episode of The Late Show with David Letterman in 1982, Jerry and Andy were brought on to share the stage after after a feud between the two had become public. Kaufman wanted to make his name more popular, and he did so by attempting to join the World Wrestling Entertainment industry. He eventually wiggled his way into the ring, and producers felt that Lawler, who was a wrestler for quite some time, and Kaufman would make nice on-screen enemies. Lawler was old school, and Kaufman was a wacky comedian who didn't belong between the ropes. A few months before the interview took place, the two fought in a one-on-one match where Lawler pile-drived Kaufman into the mat twice, and the second of which left Kaufman limp and in need of hospital. On Letterman, Kaufman was sporting a neck brace and appearing to be in enormous amounts of pain. The interview was meant to act as a reconciler for the pair, but instead devolved into shouting, slapping, and the threatening of a lawsuit. Number 7. Taylor Swift versus Kanye West. That's right, these two are in a feud, and apparently it lasted for quite some time. In 2009, Kanye interrupted Swift during MTV's Music Video Awards as she was in the middle of an acceptance speech for Best Female Music Video. While the altercation didn't take place on camera, over the next few months the feud had become public, with Swift bashing Kanye's rude behavior during the time that the ceremony had set aside specifically for her. Kanye later apologized, and things seemed to be fine for a while until 2015, when the rapper then released a song called Famous, in which he said the line, I'm paraphrasing of course, "I feel like me and Taylor may still make love. Why? I made that be famous." Swift was very vocal about her dislike for the song and claimed that it was written just to undermine her success. And a few months later, Swift also put Kanye's then wife Kim Kardashian on blast after the influencer had publicly approved the song's lyrics. Well, joke's on them though, as they have just made enemies with a woman who fuels her soul with haters. I wonder what she's got cooking up right now. Number 6. Jerry Seinfeld versus Larry King. The comedian Jerry Seinfeld appeared on Larry King's talk show following the announcement of his show sharing his last name being cancelled. It was clear that Jerry wasn't doing his research before the show, however, as midway through the interview he asked Seinfeld how did his show end. He asked if it was cancelled or if Seinfeld had just simply decided to end it himself. Seinfeld paused for a moment before asking King if he was joking. Was he not aware of what had happened? When Larry said no, Jerry went off, asking how he could be so silly, unprofessional. How could his show be cancelled? It was the best show on TV for 9 years. He then asked King if he was a professional and if this was still CNN, if this was still an interview. Where was he? Before giggling and saying, "Do you know who I am?" The two laughed it off, and King expressed that he was just wanting to clarify because he had heard it was cancelled, to which Seinfeld reminded him that his show was #1 every season. There was a big difference between being cancelled and deciding to cancel yourself, Larry. Number 5. Kevin Spacey. For a long time, Kevin Spacey was well known in the Hollywood community as a quality actor with a steady career and no signs of that stopping. That was until October 2017, when a BuzzFeed article, once again, had been published alleging that Spacey had made unwanted advances towards a then 14 Anthony Rapp. Spacey was quick to deny the speculation, claiming it to be another Hollywood scandal to fill screen time, but since the release of that article, 30 more people have come forward with their own allegations against Spacey, ranging from harassment to attempted assault. Spacey pulled back, fake apologizing for what he says must have been some drunken behavior to Rapp, and he even attempted to shift the subject by coming out of the closet. But the truth had already been set free, and becoming a part of the now famous Me Too movement, Spacey was dropped from all projects he was involved in and has been on Hollywood's blacklist ever since, where he rightfully belongs. Number 4. Tiger Woods' infidelity. Since 1999, the famous golfer had not gone a single year without winning at least one golf major championship. In fact, between the years of 1997 and 2008, he had won 14 majors. He was married to a model, had a beautiful home, and pockets full of cash. What more could you want? Apparently for Tiger, he wanted someone that wasn't his wife. In late November 2009, Tiger was seen by neighbors being chased out of his home by his wife, Ellen Nordegren, with a golf club, before peeling out of his driveway in his Escalade and crashing into a fire hydrant and then a tree. He lied unconscious on the street for 6 minutes before coming to, but by that time, it was already too late. News coverage began speculating that there must have been some case of infidelity with Tiger and his wife. And while rumors had speculated that Tiger had a mistress on the side, it turned out that this guy had a lady in every course, so to speak. He admitted on air to the misdoings and lost his endorsements with Nike, Gatorade, Gillette, and Accenture. before announcing his retirement entirely from golf. Woods reportedly confessed to sleeping with 120 women outside of his marriage, but it wasn't until April 2010 when Ellen decided to split up with Woods for good after she discovered that one of those mistresses was the next door neighbor's daughter who was in college at the time. Go Capanu! Number 3. John Lennon's investigation. Lead guitarist of the Beatles and an incredible musician in his own right, John Lennon was always very open on his political views. He was anti-war, anti-establishment, and anti-government, proven by his counterculture-esque songs like Give Peace a Chance. This marked Lennon as a national threat, and his theory on what that meant was a little fishy. Many times in interviews, he would claim that he was under surveillance 24/7 and that he was seeing the same cars driving near his residence essentially every day. Now, while at first this was taken as the ramblings of a hippie under the influence of mind-altering narcotics, this theory was proven to be true in 1972 when the Immigration and Naturalization Service tried to deport him after the FBI had confirmed that Lennon was under investigation for over a year. He was able to fight back and stay in the country to continue his anti-war agenda. See, hippies aren't always crazy. Okay? Number 2. Arnold has a secret kid. Action movie star and former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger made headlines in 2011 with the revelation that an old rumor was in fact true. In 1996, Arnold was married to Maria Shriver, a member of the Kennedy family, and they were prepping to welcome their new son Christopher into the world. Arnie didn't prep by building cribs or baby-proofing the outlets though. Instead, he chose to have an affair with his longtime housekeeper Mildred Baina. Around the same time Christopher was born, so was his illegitimate son, Joseph. Rumors began to rise after his wife noticed the strange and sudden absence of the housekeeper, and wondered if there may have been a more sinister reason for her departure. It was later revealed in 2011 though that Arnold decided to address the rumors and claim Joseph as his own. It turns out that Arnold had given Mildred a large severance package so that she could properly raise their son, leaving on what they called good terms. Eventually though, after many years of trying and lots of paperwork, Maria and Arnold were finally divorced, and he is now able to spend more time as a father. Mildred is a chef, and little Joseph is now all grown up and following in his father's footsteps as both a model and in the movie industry. And number 1. Donald Trump's criminal activities. In 2006, Donald Trump was known solely as a wealthy real estate mogul with a hit reality show called The Apprentice. He had recently been married to Melania Trump, and he had a newly born 4-month-old baby. However, reports leaked that Trump was in the midst of an affair with adult film star Stormy Daniels, after she filed a civil suit claiming that the contract he made her sign to keep quiet was invalid. Daniels claimed that herself and Trump had shared a very intimate relationship for roughly a year during his marriage to Melania. These weren't the first allegations of an affair, as Trump has been back and forth in the media since the 1970s, being accused by 26 women of harassment or misconduct. While these rumors never held any merit at first, the truth was finally set free. After being the most chaotic president in recent history, it was announced in March that Trump was being arrested on 34 separate violations of a New York law against falsifying business documents to conceal another crime. Basically, over the years, he was essentially taking company money and using it to pay off anyone who might have been a threat to him, both personally and politically. Well hey, thanks for the free money, Donnie. We'll see you never.